there, everyone! Welcome back to another episode of Entertainment with Buford and Francis. Today, as you can see, I'm cosplaying as Buford Van Stom from Phineas and Ferb. And I'll be telling the story of A Bug's Life. Enjoy the video. Ant Island is a small area in grassy hills surrounded by a little stream. Every year, a colony of ants is expected to harvest food for a biking-like bunch of greedy grasshoppers. The anxious Princess Ada is being trained by her mother, the queen, to take her place, all the while worrying about pleasing the oncoming horde. Her younger sister, Dot, is tired of being mocked by the other children for being small and unable to fly yet due to her wings being too small. Then there is an inventor, Flick, whose creations usually do more harm than good. While trying out a mechanical harvester, he accidentally hurls a wheat stalk onto Ada and rushes over to apologize. Ada tries to reason with the misfit, who makes her a telescope for when she's queen, and Thorny, a member of the royal council, confronts him and tells him to go and pick grain like the other workers. Flick sadly heads back to the wheat forest and Dot follows, saying she's impressed by his inventions. Flick feels discouraged and doubts if he will ever make a difference, and Dot expresses her own insecurity, saying she's too little. Flick tries to make his new friend feel better by showing her a metaphor of how, like a tiny seed, takes time to become a giant tree. Well, we have potential to do great things in time. Suddenly, the alarm to finish harvesting and rush into the anthill sounded, and the colony frantically finishes their work and hides in a corridor for when the grasshoppers enjoy offering in peace. After Flick puts the grain he collected onto the offering stone, he drops his machine, which knocks the pile of food into a stream just before the grasshoppers arrive. Flick is about to tell Ada when the grasshoppers bash through the ceiling and drop in. Their leader, Hopper, gives the ants the rest of the season to make good on what they owe, but orders a double ration of food after Flick stands up to him in defense of Dot, who is being threatened to Hopper's thumper. After the gang leaves, Flick is admonished by the colony's royal council when Flick suggests that he try to recruit some warrior bugs to fight the grasshoppers. Ada allows him to do so, but only to keep him out of the way. Reaching the insect city, which is made of garbage and other human objects, Flick enters a bar and spots a troupe of unemployed circus bugs whose latest performance has just ended in disaster. They are harassed by a group of flies who have previously been confronted by one of them clowns, a ladybug named Francis, after they mistake him for being female. The three clowns decide to fight back by putting on their Robin Hood act, having Flick mistaken them for the tough bugs he was looking for. However, the flies frighten the circus bugs into running for the wall and rolling the can. At the same time, they believe him to be a talent scout who wants to book their act. They return to the colony, much to Ada's surprise, and are immediately greeted as heroes who can end the grasshopper threat. After watching a gritty play put on by the ant children, the troupe realize with horror what they are really wanted for. They send Rosie to the lion tamer to tell Flick what they really are, and he panics nonchalantly, excusing himself and the troupe to supposedly plan out a strategy to fight off the grasshoppers, which in turn arouses Ada's suspicion. When Flick and the troupe are far enough from the others, the troupe begins to leave, but Flick begs them to stay, saying they would never let him live it down if the colony learns of his mistake. Ada brings the queen and the council over to see what Flick is up to, gets caught in the chaos, and Flick and the circus bugs band together to save her and escape the bird's reach. Ada begins to think that the troupe may stop the grasshoppers after all and apologizes for being rude to Flick. She gives Flick an idea, and he kisses her on the cheek before bolting off to tell the troupe. The princess starts to find herself falling in love with Flick, and the feeling is mutual. Since Hopper is afraid of birds, due to him almost getting eaten by one years ago, Flick's idea is that the colony and circus bugs would build a life-sized artificial bird to scare the grasshoppers away for good. The plan is presented by the circus bugs, so the Royal Council believes the warriors came up with the idea. When the bird is finished, it is placed inside a hollow area of the island's tree, and the colony celebrates its awaited victory. At the grasshopper gang's hideout, Hopper's brother Molt is coaxed by a couple of skeptical grasshoppers into telling their leader that it would be best not to go to the island since they have more than enough food stored and the rainy season is near. Hopper reminds him and the gang that if they do not keep the ants living in fear, the ants might use their superior numbers, 101, he estimates, to run the grasshoppers out of the colony for good. The gang sets out for the island to collect their due. During the party back at Ant Island, circus ringmaster P.T. Flea arrives looking for his missing performers and exposes the truth. The colony is devastated, believing the bird turned out to be a waste of time. Upset at Flick's deception, Ada orders him exiled from the colony while the other ants hide the bird to pretend it never happened and rush to collect whatever food they can for Hopper. They're unable to meet the double quota he set, as they would starve if they give up anymore. When the gang arrives, Hopper takes over the anthill, furious for not giving them enough, and forces ants to bring him all the food on the island. While Dot leads the blueberries to their hidden clubhouse for safety, she overhears the gang's plans to kill the queen once they have all the food. After a tangle with Thumper, she sprouts her wings and catches up with Flick and the troop. She persuades them to return and put the bird into action with help from her and the rest of the Blueberry Scouts. However, Flick is entirely discouraged and says the colony was right about him. He is shaken out of his doubt when Dot reminds him of his seed to the tree metaphor. Back at the island, Flick instructs the troop to distract the grasshoppers at the show while he and the blueberries climb up to the bird. Manny the Magnificent and his lovely assistant Gypsy put on a magic act to sneak the queen away so she wouldn't be there to get squished by Hopper. Then the bird launches from out of the tree, supported by a cable, and swoops over the bunch, causing panic as the ants and circus bugs try to make wounds with fairy juice. The plan goes greatly until PT intervenes and sets the model on with fire with a lighter fluid to stop its terror. Enraged at Flick's attempts to fight back, Hopper sends Thumper to beat him and talks down to the ants. Flick, having had enough of Hopper's cruelty, manages to stand up and rally the other ants, saying that the grasshoppers depend on the extorted food for their own survival and the ants are stronger than he thinks. While Hopper pushes him down, Ada stands in front of him. She tells him firmly that the ants pick and keep the food, and the grasshoppers leave. The entire colony swarms against the gang, forcing all except Hopper to leave. They shove him into a circus cannon to shoot him away, but the rain arrives and causes the ants to retreat into the anthill. Hopper shoots himself out of the cannon, grabs Flick, and flies off, intent on killing him. Ada rescues Flick, and the two lure Hopper towards the bird's nest. Hopper corners Flick and starts strangling him, revealing his intention of returning to the colony with more grasshoppers, but Flick won't be there. Flick is saved when the bird appears, picks up Hopper, and feeds him to her baby chicks. The following spring, the colony adapts Flick's harvester to speed up the grain collection. Ada becomes the new queen, passes the princess crown to Dot, and chooses Flick as her mate. As the troop leaves, Slim notices that they've forgotten Heimlich, who emerges from the chrysalis in which he has encased himself. He pops out with a tiny pair of butterfly wings, far too small to lift him off the ground. But he's picked up by Francis and Manny. The circus bugs, with Molt acting as a road crew assistant, departs the colony's thanks. Dot, joined by Queen Ada and Flick, wave goodbye.